Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Trading Bitcoin with your host Tone Vase. Um, oh, Still in Kiev, Ukraine. A lot of fun. The food here is amazing. And what time is it here now? I think it's like 4 or 5. It's about 4:30. This will definitely be under an hour because I'm on battery power because the plug doesn't reach to this table. So let's just jump right in to where we left off last time, actually. There's really not much different. Like, it's not that exciting. Like, yes, I'm now bullish, but like that's just, TA. And we'll talk about it. I'll also try and grab some more of your live questions. And let's go to screen share. See what's going on. All right, the workshops. Workshops are winding down a little bit. I'm probably going to still do webinars. Here's the next webinar: entries, exits, and stop losses, taking place this Sunday. And on Friday, I am headed to Prague, and I will be doing a meetup at 6:30 p.m. at Paralelny Police. I can never pronounce that right. This is the home of the Hackers Congress conference as well in October, and I will be back in Prague for that. But I will be in Prague, so come out and check that out. So before I I'm starting to fill out my calendar. Next week, I'm probably going to fill out my calendar for the next 12 months, right? But right now, you can see that I'm in Prague, and then you can flip over to next month, and you can see that I'll be in Canada, and then I'll be in Dallas, Texas for BitBlock Boom. And then you can head on over to the following month. You'll see I'll be in Latvia for Honey Badger. I may be in Azerbaijan, and then I might be in Georgia. That's more of a vacation. I'm not sure why I'm telling people where I'm going to be on vacation, but I'll be doing videos from there anyway. So no such thing as a vacation in my world. Videos pretty much every day unless I'm a little too busy. And yeah, well, at least I'm in good health, right? When was the last time Tone Vase took a sick day? How about that? They pretty much don't exist. Also advise people to eat right so you don't have to take any sick days. All right. Maybe future Tone Vase YouTube channel is going to be about food, not about Bitcoin. Eventually. When shitcoins die, well, when I consider shitcoins are dead. Okay, let's. That's about it. And if you guys want to support this free content, please check out the affiliates page. And this summer, I'm going to upgrade all my tech, and I will definitely give you other suggestions on tech, even though my suggestions on tech are not that great. All right, charts. That's why we're here. That's why we're all here. I restarted my computer, so now we have to wait for some of this stuff to load here. All right, so we are now approaching the weekly Fibonacci. I want to see this Fibonacci broken to the upside at the week close, right? So that means today is what? Today is Wednesday. So by Sunday, it would be nice to close this candle above the Fibonacci line. Though we don't have to really. We're close enough to it as it is. Like my rule was simple back in the early stages of the 2016 bull market, right? In a 2016 bull market, the 62% Fibonacci was, let's round, $750. And you can see how when we went up and we hit the 72% Fibonacci, sorry, the 62% Fibonacci at $750, we pulled back. This is the weekly scale. We pulled back all the way to 470, right? So what, I need my calculator. Oh no, actually I don't need a calculator. I have this guy. So what was that correction? That was a correction of 40%, right? And Bitcoin has a history of these 40% corrections. So the last time we hit that Fibonacci, we corrected 40%. Now this time we broke through that Fibonacci on an intra-week level and then corrected 30%, okay? Guys, the Fibonacci did not pass 76%. Just it's very simple math. The math is very simple, okay? For Fibonacci, people are confusing log scales. Fibonacci's are very simple. You take the high point, you subtract the low point, you have a number. You take a percentage of that number and you add it to the low point, okay? These Fibonacci's should be correct. Steemit is a scam. Why on earth would I be on Steemit? Just Google Steemit scam. I'm going to be all over the first page of Google searches. And the last time I did anything in regards to Steemit was like 2016 when I exposed it as a giant scam. I didn't call Sunny Decree out on Twitter. Sunny Decree was way more favorable to altcoins, like many content creators, until they realized that if you wanna, unless you wanna ruin your reputation, you have to slowly become more and more Bitcoin centric. And Ian Bolima is slowly becoming more Bitcoin centric. Same with many others. Eventually, box mining will learn. It's only a matter of time. Anyway, once we got to this 62% Fibonacci and pulled back, and were able to start another uptrend, I was very confident that we're going to break this Fibonacci. To me, once the 62% Fibonacci is broken to the upside, it, oh, you know what? I want to double check my audio because I unplugged everything. Okay, we're good. Once this Fibonacci is broken to the upside the second time, it becomes really, really good. Now be careful, because right here's the weekly chart. Here is us breaking the same 62% Fibonacci at $750. And it was right on the 5 candle, exactly the way it's happening right now. We're sitting here on a weekly 5 candle. And then we broke out fast to the upside. We went from $750 to $1,000 over the next 4 weeks. And then Bitcoin tops on a 9 right there at $1,000 and pulls back to that Fibonacci point. So how much did Bitcoin pull back? Bitcoin pulled back 25%. But look, it didn't take a day, right? It took 2 full weeks. Oh, actually, after the 9, I didn't see that shadow there. I didn't see that wick. We actually did go higher. The following candle ran all the way to 1140, and then we pulled back 34%. Okay, so the 9 did call a top, even though the following candle did go higher, but it certainly didn't close higher. This was a monster candle. So this weak candle had a monster range from that high to this high. So again, you have to be conscious of that. And here is another weekly 9 that was very, very useful and very critical. So let's go over to today. Today, we have the same thing, okay? Guys, this is the correct Fibonacci level. Stop. It's very, very, very simple math, okay? You take the difference in price between the all-time high, subtract from that the swing low, okay? What is that? That is what? Let's round. That's 10,000 minus 3,000. I round it. Sorry, 20,000 minus 3,000. That's 17,000, okay? What is 62% of 17,000? Take 62% of that and then add to it 3,000, okay? 62% of 17,000 is about 10,000. Add to it 3,500, and that's what you have, okay? It's very simple math. It's 5th grade math. Okay. Now, here's that 5 candle, right? So at this point, I am looking for a third 9 in a row. I got my 30% pullback. I really wanted it to last a little bit longer. I really wanted it to go a little bit deeper, but it didn't happen. Now, am I still concerned about this monster bull market? I am very concerned, okay? Because every time Bitcoin goes up exponentially, it corrects 80+%. I don't think it's going to be different this time. I believe because of this exponential rise, Bitcoin is going to correct 80%. The big question is it going to correct 80% before when? When is the 80% correction going to start? Okay. Now, if we're lucky, the 80% correction is going to start after Bitcoin hits 100,000, because then an 80% correction keeps us above the 2017 all-time high. Guys, can you please ban every Steam It fool that's in the chat, please? I'm tired of seeing garbage. I should probably make more admins. I'll make admins once I recognize, I have to recognize certain handles. Should pay attention to them more. Anyway, let me not get distracted by the live chat. Okay. Anyway, so because Bitcoin has already gone up a lot, so if let's take the exponential rise stage, right? So we can go from the secondary low up to the swing high. That's a 315% return, okay? That is what I call exponential, okay? And this took place in a few months, like what, in less than 6 months, right? In like 4 months. That's unreal. And every time that happens, Bitcoin corrects hard. Now, if we top out in 4 weeks, let's say at 16,000, let's say we top out at the next Fibonacci level, whether it's 76 or 78, whatever you prefer to use. Then an 80% correction would be devastating, right? Because then an 80% correction, say from that last Fibonacci level, going down 80%, oh boy, would take you actually below the 200-week moving average, right? It's not going to take you to a brand new low. It will take you to, it'll still be a higher low. It'll be down to 3,600, right? So I would say more realistically, we may not get an 80% correction if we top out before the new all-time high. We may get a correction down to the 200-week moving average, which by then would probably be a little bit higher. So we are looking at, let's say, the 5,000-ish area. Because of the current exponential rise, I am not ruling out the possibility that this rally, there's something wrong with this rally. Like, I was a big bull in 2016 and 17 because the fundamental environment was very, very different. I felt that the fundamental environment was very conducive to a bull market. I don't feel that way this time, right? I know people think that I'm a perma bear, which is kind of ridiculous. I just don't see how the fundamental environment is justifying the current rise in Bitcoin. Now, I fully understand the fundamentals of Bitcoin. I've been in this space longer than half the life of Bitcoin. And I understand that Bitcoin is scarce and people don't want to sell it, and it drives the prices higher than it normally should. But there's something not natural about the current rise in Bitcoin. It's hard for me to explain it, but it's something not natural about it. And that concerns me. But from a technical picture, from a TA picture, I got what I needed. It came late. It wasn't perfect, but it's what I said all along in my article when I wrote it back in February of 2015, is that in order for me to declare a trend change, I need a noticeable swing high, a noticeable swing low, and in the case of Bitcoin, I said I needed it to be at least 30%, and then a break of that set high. Now, technically speaking, the break of that high is going to be at 14,000. But because it happened on like an intraday wick, 1250 was enough for me to call it. We just needed 1250 to last for about 24 hours worth of time, and 1250 has now lasted for over 24 hours length of time. The current candle and the last two candles actually, last candle had an opening at 12,300, and that candle closed at 12,500. And the majority of that candle was above 1250, and the majority of today's candle is above 1250. Now, the 12-hour chart is interesting because the 12-hour chart just hit a 9. Now, the daily and the weekly still have lots of room to the upside. The daily still has, it does have a 13 tomorrow, but the 13s have not really been all that useful to Bitcoin. It has a sequential 13 coming up tomorrow. So I'm not going to take it too seriously. Now, the 12-hour is on a 9, currently forming a doji candle, but we're only 2 of 12 hours in, right? Now, we did establish now a new setup trend line, and notice how the 12-hour chart has not broken the downside of a setup trend line. Well, in a while, right? Like in a long while. Wow. So, right, so the last time, yeah, so since, wow, this is fascinating actually. So the 12-hour chart has not broken a single setup trend line. Oh, it broke one. I missed this one right here. It broke one. One setup trend line got broken on a 12-hour chart, and that's right here. That was, so since the low, since the secondary low, that's the secondary low. No, that's the primary low. Since the primary low in December, I only see one setup trend line breaking. And that is this setup trend line right here at 5,200. When we pulled back from 57 down to 5. That's it. That's the list. One setup trend line has been broken on a 12-hour chart. So the odds are pretty damn good that this setup trend line at 11,000 is not very likely to break. That's, wow, that's one hell of a run up, actually. And yeah, so those odds are good that the setup trend line will hold on a 12-hour. Now, what am I expecting because of this 9? Well, a 1 to 4 candle correction on a 12-hour chart, followed by more upside. So maybe tomorrow it will pull back. Maybe we'll hit 14,000 again, break this high by a few dollars sometime in the next 12 hours, maybe, right? I mean, Bitcoin can run up another 1,000 easily. It just did. So maybe, or maybe we top here for just a short amount of time, and then the daily and the weekly are still very, very bullish. Here's a 4-hour chart. The 4-hour chart is what I was gauging to break this setup trend line in order for me to really become bullish, and that happened. We pulled back to that trend line, and the 4-hour chart is still pretty good. The 4-hour chart is still bullish, only on a 5 candle with, more upside to go. Plug in my laptop here. I don't have the hourly chart anymore. Bitcoin dominance is slowly rising. We are now at 68%. So that's great. And the shit coins are continue to fall. Don't really care. Let's talk about Ethereum. Ethereum just looks worse and worse and worse, right? I mean, here's Ethereum. Ethereum is now on a brand new week close, brand new weekly close. There is no 13 in sight. There is no 9 in sight. So I don't see anything on a weekly scale that should slow down the crash of Ethereum. And Ethereum is on its way, towards its IPO price of 20 cents. It's just getting there slower than I'd like. Here's Ethereum in dollar terms. It's just not moving. It hit a 9. It got stuck a little bit. And let's see if the tide turns for Ethereum Cash as well. Here's Litecoin. Now, Litecoin is also, the chart of Litecoin looks horrendous. But TD Sequential is telling you, hey, you may want to be careful here, right? Because you just have a combo and a sequential on the same day, preceded by an aggressive. Now, I will admit that this is now the daily chart of Litecoin. Now, I will admit that these countdown phases have not really been all that critical in crypto like the setup phases. I want to take a look at the weekly chart. The weekly chart still has lots of downside to go. We top on a 9 right there. We pull back heavily. We hold setup trend weekly, bounce back up, make a reversal candle. We break setup trend. And now Litecoin is in a lot of trouble. Litecoin was the beneficiary, of rising from the dead at 0.007 Bitcoin. Again, I happens to do it on a 9, which is great. But right here, that was a critical daily support that we broke. This is the critical weekly support that we break. And here's what happens when we break it. And yes, I do believe that it should be in negative territory versus Bitcoin. Like, you should be paid real money to hold the Litecoin bag. Same thing with Ethereum. So technically, when Litecoin goes to 0, you will end up in negative equity, because if you paid for a hardware wallet to store your Litecoin, and Litecoin goes to 0 because their blockchain broke, technically you lost money holding Litecoin. like you were negative by taking on the Litecoin. Like, if someone even gave you Litecoin for free, but you had to buy a hardware wallet to store it, technically it was a negative deal for you. Here's Litecoin in dollar terms. Again, with a 9 here is now below a moving average. Now, I want to pull up Litecoin on a 12-hour, and here's why. We threw this in our notification system. I don't normally do anything for 12-hour charts, but Litecoin seemed interesting on a 12-hour, and it's not anymore. Remember, you don't just blindly trade these green arrows. You look for signs of reversal, and there is absolutely no signs of a reversal here. This was a catastrophic 12-hour candle. Granted, it was a 9 candle. The current candle is now trading below it. If the next candle starts to trade below this candle, then that's it. Then this 9 was not a reversal. Now, the last time we did have a 9, we had a really nice reversal to the upside here. And 9 on a 12-hour has not been that bad. I mean, here's a 9 at the top, not exactly at the top, one 12-hour candle off the top. And look at this huge downside from this final 9. This was a double 9. And like I've been saying, double 9s seem to be, like, I don't have any statistics, but I've been looking at enough charts, and these double 9s seem to be very, very useful. And right here, you did have another 9. The following candle looked similar to the current candle at moving average. We went up for 1 to 4 candles. We went up for exactly 2.5 candles. And then it was all she wrote. And this kicked off the countdown phase. Completed here on the aggressive, completed here, sequential completed here, the combo completed here. Combo was a very tricky one. The other combo completed the next day. the combo from the 9 that followed. The aggressive was there, and the sequential was here. So all of this has played out. This was a rebound on a 9, but it wasn't a real 9, so the countdowns kept going. And the only thing left now is we just started off another countdown phase. So Litecoin is in a lot of trouble, but it potentially could have, a 1 to 4 candle correction. Is it tradable? I don't know. I wouldn't trade it. But I think Litecoin is in a lot of trouble. And after the halving, shit's really going to hit the fan for Litecoin. GBTC, not really much to say. Obviously, it's going to a new high. But the premium is holding steady at 32. Oh, this is minor profitability. I do expect minor profitability to come back towards this line. It's so rare that we only hit this line once. It happened back in 2011, so I don't know how useful that is. And remember, minor profitability will get cut in half in 2020. So we may come back to this minor profitability in 2020, because in 2020, or after the halving, right, the price of Bitcoin would need to be around $6,000 in order to hit this yellow line again. And I think it's possible that Bitcoin corrects all the way down to 6. I still haven't ruled out 4 and 4.5. I still have an outstanding bet with Crypto Trader and Ran of Crypto Trader that Bitcoin will hit 4,500 before the halving. I still have about, 9 months? And anything can happen, guys. You have to be prepared for anything and everything. This is gold. Gold is holding steady, which I am very impressed with. This is weekly gold. It's holding steady in the face of a rise of the dollar. I should probably look at dollar first before I start looking at like gold and stuff. Let me zoom in on that rise of the dollar. Maybe the dollar isn't up today. The dollar is neutral this week. It went up a little bit. It pulled back. The dollar is also holding setup trend. It came and touched the setup trend. Now the dollar has had 3 nines, not exactly in a row, but 9s nonetheless. And I do think the dollar will appreciate. The last 9 did break setup trend. And we're on a 12 sequential from this. Where is, oh, interesting. We're actually on a 12 sequential from this 9, not even the second one. Meanwhile, 2 aggressives have already completed. That's rare. That is really, really, really rare. By the way, there are free versions of the TD code. You guys have no idea how difficult this code is to actually make, because you have to keep so much data in memory, and Pine code isn't exactly C++. So if you're using somebody else's code, just be careful. I don't know how accurate they are. But yeah, this is gold, and this should be oil. Oil is in my little no trade zone. If oil can break out next week, I guess it's bullish. And yeah, oil can really go either way here. I wouldn't really mess with oil if I was trading. I mean, oil did slightly break at 62% Fibonacci. So it's the same concept as Bitcoin, right? If oil makes it back to this line, I think oil will challenge this $76 high. And if the dollar isn't really moving, neither will the euro. So not really much to say here. It is in a very bearish posture. And if the euro breaks the setup trend line, the euro is in trouble. S&P just started trading for the day. Really, really curious how we're doing here. Ah, beautiful. S&P futures are breaking 3,000. So we should be close on the S&P cash to break that 3,000. And did we do it? And we did. We broke 3,000 on S&P cash. I'm sure gloom and doomers are having a giant field day. Giant field day. Now, let me show you how people continuously underestimate the market. There was a tweet that I saw. Oh man, but that was like early this morning, and my Twitter feed is probably a giant mess, like it usually is. Let me see if I find that tweet, because I want to show you guys something. Yeah, my Twitter feed gets, I don't even follow that many people. There was an interesting chart where people are predicting like a 90% correction of the S&P, and I think that's completely ridiculous. And I'll show you why. Probably should have thought about this before I started the video and found it. Oh boy, yeah, I'm not gonna find it. I don't know what it was. Anyway, it doesn't. I'm not gonna bother. I mean, I think that the stock market is grossly undervalued. I've been saying this for 5 years. Everyone wants to see a stock market crash. I'm not exactly sure why. I guess they want their friends and family to lose their jobs. But I hope this chart has the history. It did have the history when I drew this chart. It took me like 3 days of nonstop work to put this together. Oh boy, what happened here? That's not good. Don't tell me I lost my chart that literally that. If I lose that chart, I'll never be able to. I'm never gonna put in the kind of work that I made it back in the day. Yeah, this was it, but the ticker is now INDU, so that's gonna be an issue. Yeah, I think I lost my historical chart, which is, oh no, I didn't. This is it. But I believe it was monthly, or was it yearly? It might have been yearly. It was yearly. Here it is. Wait, something's not working. Oh yeah, this all got messed up. Maybe it was monthly. Yeah, I don't, like I said, back in the day when TradingView gave me more data, see, TradingView isn't giving me any data past 1970, but I had data back to 1913, and I was able to put this chart together. There's a presentation about this chart. I did it once. It's somewhere on my YouTube channel. If you go to my YouTube, and it sucks, you know, you put in all this work, like multiple days of straight work, and then it just all goes away. Presentations and meetups, and eventually they'll take down this presentation because they always do. You can't trust other YouTubes. It was from an Acapulco. Maybe it's this deleted video. I mean, so many people take this down. Like I can't download every presentation I do and save it locally. I just don't have that kind of time nor resources. So a lot of times I do these presentations that are, oh, here it is. No, is this it? Maybe that's it. Yeah, that's the one. So I'll never be able to get this chart back, unfortunately, but it's in here. Where is it? Here it is. Yeah, so this was the chart, and this whole presentation explained why the S&P 500 is, or why the Dow is headed for at least 75,000 points, right? So right now we're at 3,000. Sorry, we're on the Dow, not the S&P, right? So right now we're way higher. Right now we're like here somewhere. And people think that we're gonna correct to like down there because they're drawing this channel incorrectly. So many people have drawn this channel incorrectly, and there's tweets about that now that it's pretty much kind of ridiculous. And that's why I wanted to point it out. Too bad I can't get this chart back, which is unfortunate. Took a lot of work, but oh, I guess I started the presentation. Maybe one day I'll redo it or something. Anyway, you guys get the point. You can find the presentation. But it sucks that like people record my presentations, but then they take down the videos. So unfortunately, I don't know which videos they were because it doesn't tell me. So I don't even know who to reach out to get those videos back. All right. I guess I'll look at some of your Q&A. And now I'm working on my next presentation. Yeah, so you see the background, but you don't see the price history because TradingView took it away. Oh well. And if I change the ticker that has the price history, then all my drawings go away, and that took an unreasonable amount of time to do. All right. I don't really want to look at stocks, so I can look at your live chat maybe. Yeah, I'm aware about Zoom's security issue. They didn't handle it very well. All the more reasons why I don't use a Mac. Besides, I can't use a Mac because it's unuser friendly. Yeah, I don't really care what whale pool's doing. I never really did. Speculation is not a use case. I agree. Maybe 5 shitcoins will succeed. Tell me which 5 out of 4,000. I also believe there are some penny stocks that will succeed. Tell me which 5 penny stocks out of 40,000 will succeed. Otherwise, just shut up. And we are joined by Tyler Jenks. Hey, Tyler. Got on mute.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, wait. You got on mute, and I got to turn on a speaker. Hold on. Hey, buddy. Can you hear me? I still can't hear you. Probably my problem. No.
Can you hear me?
Say something else, Tyler. Tyler, say something. Oh, I think I hear you. Say something. Tyler, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you, no.
You can't hear me. Okay, I hear you. You can't hear me. I think that's you. I think that's a problem on your end. We hear you. You can't hear me. That's weird. I don't know what I can do.
It says I'm unmuted now.
Yeah, you are, but you should be able to hear me. So we'll do this. We hear you, so go ahead and go ahead and talk about Bitcoin and SPX. Check your chat.
You want me to leave and come back?
Telegram, like just check your Telegram. I don't really know how to sign. Yeah, come back. Close, come back.
How about now?
Well, I hear
you.
you.
I got you.
You got me. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, it was on your end. All right. Tyler, I'm going to refill my cup of tea. Feel free to say I'm 2 videos behind on your channel. So feel free to give us an update on what you're thinking right now. I'm not sure if you were listening to me the last half an hour.
No, I missed that, but I have become very, very bullish. However, there's a big problem between 13,500 and 14,500. So I'm telling people not to add any positions at this point. We've been still holding our positions from around the $6,500 level. We sold half of them at 8,800, and for certain clients, we sold because they had too many positions, in my opinion. But everybody else is still holding just about 10% of X. We started with 20% of X. My goal is to get everybody up to 50% of X, somewhere right where we are right here. But if you get a chance to listen to our video last night, Socrates came up with a very interesting Wyckoff structure that shows that we're in a position right now that if we get up to 14,000 approximately, take out the old highs, but can't go any further, we could drop back significantly to the 10,000 area, and then a move up that doesn't get back up to the 14,000 area would be terminal, that we would begin a big down move. That's the only thing I see technically that calls into question where we are right here. The Copic curve is fully bullish. Consensio is fully bullish. The ADX is fully bullish right here, right now. And normally that would mean go all in at this point. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, Tyler, also the daily and weekly sequential plus an imminent break of the 62% Fibonacci. They're
Yes.
both fully bullish.
Well, and the most important thing going on to me right now is the Ethereum GBTC and the Litecoin GBTC as of this morning. Maybe you've already talked about it, but they have broken through to the downside and are accelerating. And they're absolutely both down, both Ethereum and Litecoin this morning. And that may portend a pullback in all the cryptos that could also include Bitcoin in here. So I'm
Yeah,
just
no, see, I see that. I see that the other way around, right? So I did talk about both Ethereum and Litecoin, and I don't see the altcoins pulling Bitcoin down. If anything, I see fall of Bitcoin helping boost Bitcoin up because a lot of these people are getting out of Litecoin, getting out of Ethereum. They're not going to go into dollars. They're going into Bitcoin. So
I agree. I think that's the most likely scenario.
now,
But
eventually, the way all markets top is no one else wants to buy. So once the, I mean, I guess if you've been holding on to Litecoin and Ethereum, and now you're selling it for Bitcoin, I mean, we can call you weak hands. Like, I don't want to say that people have strong hands in Litecoin and Ethereum. They're either stupid hands or they're weak hands, right? So the weak hands are getting out. The stupid hands are still holding. So it depends when are the stupid hands going to become the weak hands. And I think eventually the weak hands do run out. I think Litecoin has really gotten oversold, and it may have one more pump in it going into its halving. Now, I don't think the pump is going to take it to new highs like a month ago, but I think it still has one more pump, one more dead cat bounce left in it. So I do think that the added oomph into Bitcoin from the shitcoiners is about to, slow down.
yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. I think it's the most bullish thing that could happen to Bitcoin right now is to really have these things start to come apart. It's just where we are right now, struggling to get back up to. I did notice that on the daily and on the weekly, if we were to close right here, this would be the highest close if we can make it till tonight at around this 13,100 level. That's higher than the 12.9 close that occurred on the big candle that took us up to 13,800. That's a little thing, but I'd like to see it happen. If we can't do that, and with what you said on the sequential, we might go through a period of 1 to 4 days and maybe even longer of some sort of a pullback. On that pullback, I want to be buying aggressively.
Yeah, I'm with you. I wanna go to screen share. I just want to take a look at a stock. I mean, Tyler, you pretty much, are you up to date on my videos besides today?
Yeah, I sure am. I've heard them all.
All right. By the way, this is what Amazon looks like right now.
Yeah, amazing.
Absolutely crazy. And but this Indian stock Titan, oh my God.
Incredible. What a call at that 9 monthly, 9 weekly, 9 daily. Just incredible.
Yeah, and I know a couple of guys in India that took this trade and did pretty well. Yeah, so that was just insane. I want to see where it goes. I want to see if this gets you to a daily 9 at the moving average, and then have a nice, dead cat bounce.
You're probably not following it, but the Fed chairman is up at Congress today testifying, and the whole question is basically about the US dollar, because Trump has been saying that the dollar is way too high and it needs to go down. And the testimony is going on right now. So depending on that happens, we're getting a big turnaround in the market. It started down kind of weak this morning and now is flipped over to the positive side. Just like yesterday, it started weak and flipped over to the positive side. We could be on the verge of a big move up in the stock market right here.
Trump is wrong. Trump is just wrong. I mean, yes, the dollar, I mean, the dollar is going significantly higher. I mean, it's just, if he is this upset now, when the dollar is what? Is it at 97 or something? Where is it at?
97.30 yesterday.
I mean, he's going to have a heart attack when it goes to 110.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. Like, look, there is a time to be worried and upset about an expensive dollar, but we're not even close to that time. And if Trump starts, I mean, like, how do you lower the value of the dollar? All you can do is print.
Well, no, there's actually a way set up that the U.S. Treasury can move the dollar legally. And the way it is through what's called the Currency Stabilization Fund that was set up back in the 1970s when all that nonsense with inflation was going on. And it's still up and going today. And it allows the US Treasury to buy and sell large amounts of other currencies relative to the dollar. And it's been used on a number of occasions over the last 35 years. And it would be better for Trump, if that's what he really wanted, to simply use the US Treasury's ability to do that. But I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to get this central bank on board with that. If you think about it for a second, the huge rally we had in the stock market came with a shift from Powell back in December from wanting to raise 2 or 3 times this year to saying they are not going to raise this year. That's what caused the market to go down, first of all, because he was going to raise, and then go up after he wasn't going to raise. Now, everyone is pretty sure we're going to start cutting later this month. The Federal Reserve will cut 25 basis points on the short-term interest rates. That hurts the dollar because unless all the other countries are also cutting at the same time, the dollar is relatively weaker for that period of time. Now, if there's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 cuts, then that's significant, and we'll see weakness in the dollar and strength in gold. Right now, none of that is happening because no one is sure exactly what's going on. So Trump, I think, is jumping into the media talking about the necessity to get interest rates lower and the dollar lower to help relative trade values between the United States and everybody else. I don't think it's a war on the dollar by Trump. I think it's his need to show U.S. Stock strength and U.S. economic strength going into the election.
Yeah, no, we will see what happens, but I think it's unfortunate that if the U.S. policy starts to change because they think the dollar is too expensive, considering it's been higher than this for most of 2015 and 16 and some of 17. This is crazy.
Yep. Yeah, it's
absolutely crazy.
It's very counterintuitive.
And other countries are going to retaliate if the U.S. wants to, depreciate their dollar.
Absolutely. His argument is they've already been doing that and keeping their interest rates so low and therefore their currencies weak, that helps them run to the U.S. with strength.
But that's also what we've been doing with Powell not raising rates.
That's exactly right. he's getting everything he wants, but he wants more.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. Like we've said it several times, it's not going to be hyperinflation that kills, America as a superpower. It's going to be a strong dollar. It's going to be Trump or probably whoever takes over after Trump blowing a gasket when the dollar goes to 125, 130. The euro falls below parity. The pound falls below parity. And the dollar is so strong that the government will basically do the stupidest things to try and crash it, and they'll just crash the entire US economy as a superpower along with it.
Well, and you did a great job showing the dollar on a longer term basis. If you pull that chart back, everybody can see that, yeah, the dollar is very volatile, but look at it back in 1999 and 2000, how high it got. And then look even further back. We are not at the high end of the dollar range. We are at the low end of the dollar range, and there's plenty of room to appreciate. Yeah,
and Tyler, and here is that 62% Fibonacci once again across many assets, right? The dollar crossed that 62%, couldn't hold it, and like gold is now breaking it, Bitcoin is now breaking it. This is open air.
Yeah.
Once the dollar can establish itself above 100, it's gonna get to an all-time high in no time.
Yep, I agree completely. And if it does that, there's reason to believe that gold is in trouble. And you pointed that out yesterday. So far, that's not what we're seeing. And to me, the longer gold can stay above that 1270 to 80 level, the more probable it is that it's going up, not down. And even with this recent move in the dollar, which had dropped all the way down to 96, and the euro was pushing 114, then all of a sudden the dollar took off again. Gold has held without pulling back. And that's, to me, very bullish for gold.
Right. Now, also keep in mind that after the dollar rose to 120, it's 120 high. Why am I struggling here? There, right? The dollar fell 40%.
Yeah.
Now, if the dollar makes a new all-time high, let's say the dollar goes to 130, right? And the US government does the dumbest things to crash the US economy completely, the dollar can then crash, and it might even set a new low. So we're talking about a 50% devaluation of the dollar. Now that is going to be the reign of, that might be the reign of gold. And the question is, what happens to the US stock market in that environment? Will it collapse the US companies because of the rising dollar? But if it doesn't, if the US companies find a way to be competitive with a rising dollar, a 50% devaluation in the dollar after it reaches unreasonable high, and we're talking, 2030, right? I drew this way too early. We're not here. We're like out here somewhere, right?
Right.
If the US companies manage to remain competitive and the US economy doesn't get killed in the late 2020s with a rising dollar, I'm very, very curious. That might be one for the record books. What happens to the US equities if a US dollar has a sudden devaluation? Because I can see a sudden hyperinflation-ish event in the 2030s, in 10, 15 years from now, and that can cause the US stock market to go through the roof because you're devaluating the dollar, just like the Zimbabwe stock market was the best performing stock market of the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Because their currency collapsed, right? And that might be the late 1920s stock market boom that later caused a 90% stock market correction. So lots of ramifications here, but I'm not expecting anything for another 5 years, at least.
Well, and you notice on your chart that from 2001 until the bottom of 2008, 9, and 10, the dollar dropped from 120 all the way down to 70. That during that period, we were having to drop our interest rates to zero, which we did on 2 occasions. First, from 2000 to 2003, and we got a counter trend move in the stock market and the real estate market starting in 2003, 4, 5, and 6. But look what the dollar did. It kept on going down, and we raised interest rates during that 2003, 4, 5, and 6 all the way up to 6% on the 10-year yield before we got into the 2007, 8, and 9 mortgage mess, and then dropped it back down to zero. So there is a lot of interplay between interest rates and the Fed, what they can control and what the dollar is doing. And
I'm with you. I'm with you, Tyler. There are, but what people don't understand is, and this is what I try to explain, the dollar's effect on other markets. You can see during this 40% correction, through the first half of that correction, the stock market was crashing, the 2000.
Right.
But during the second half of the correction, the stock market was rising. And
That's
this
right.
shows you that speculators' appetite is greater than fluctuations in a currency, as long as they're somewhat orderly. And even a 40% devaluation of the dollar is somewhat orderly. So, and now we're seeing a rising stock market all throughout this latest rise in the dollar. The dollar went up big between 2014 and 2017, and the stock market continued to rise. So the appetite for speculation is always greater than your currency, unless your currency really starts to move, and then it may have correlation.
Well, going right along with what you're saying, take a look at 1995 on this chart until the top in 2000. Those are the best 5 years in US stock market history. 24% per year compounded, 2.5 times the average of the last 100 years. So a rising dollar can be very, very beneficial to not only the economy, but corporations.
Yeah, and I don't understand how Trump doesn't understand this, right? Like, I foresee a rising dollar with the boom in robotics and automation and removal of, jobs to robots. And I think lots of US companies will benefit a lot. There's lots of good companies Japan is leading the way here as well, but I'm sure Korea is doing pretty well. I don't know about Europe, but I think US, Japan, Korea, maybe China, they're going to be the leaders in, automation of human jobs. And I think a rising dollar will be almost irrelevant as those companies start to rise and take over. Drones and all this other self-driving cars. I think the future is bright for equities here.
Well, what I'm just fascinated about, and I guess it's a little egotistical, but the article that I wrote called The Long and Winding Road to $10 Million Bitcoin, in that I come forward with the proposition that either we're going to be able to grow out of this mess through a very strong US economy and stock market, or there will be a default, or gold and or Bitcoin will be part of the solution. And we don't have the answer as we sit here today to which of those things is going to happen, but they're all in play. Every one of them are in play as we sit here right here. Bitcoin looks like it wants to take a part in the solution. Gold looks like it wants to take a part in the solution. The US stock market looks like it wants to take a part in the solution. But the big if is it in anybody's power to make that decision? Or will a default on the debt situation be forced on us, and then we've got to pick up the pieces. And I just don't have an answer to that one.
Yeah, I just looked at Bitcoin. We're pulling back a little bit. Here's that 12-hour 9. I don't think it's anything too concerning, but it can definitely set us back a day or two. I got a question in the live chat. We've answered it many times, but I'll answer it again. The question is, what effect do you think the rising stock market has on Bitcoin? And to me, a rising stock market has a huge positive effect on Bitcoin. People have to realize what the stock market is. And this is where I have a big problem with all the gloom and doomers. I mean, if I'm predicting a stock market crash, it's going to be technical. Maybe it'll be economic, maybe if there is a bubble, but there is no, I don't see a bubble right now, at least not in equities. And basically, here's how you have to think about the rising stock market. Rising stock market means private companies are doing well. If private companies are doing well, they are hiring people and paying them a lot of money, because anyone that's working, I mean, the only reason you go into the public sector is to have influence and power. If you but eventually it's still a revolving door. They eventually go for money in the private sector. Private sector is where you can make, you know, legitimate money, right? Not use your power and influence. So if the stock market is doing well, that means people have jobs that are high paying. When people have high paying jobs, they have more money to speculate on crazy investments. One of those investments is Bitcoin, because if the stock market is crashing, that means people are losing their jobs. And the last thing they're going to be buying, because they have no money, is Bitcoin.
I think that's an unbelievably important point. And that has to do with anything other than traditional investments. All other non-traditional investments do very well when the economy and the stock market are strong, and they tend to do very poorly. And I'm talking about racehorses and art and Chinese ceramics and Persian carpets. It's true that they tend to hold their value, but nobody is buying them when you've got worldwide weakness or weakness among the stronger developing countries. The same thing is true in my mind with things like Bitcoin, and can be true with things like gold and silver. Now, for 40 years, the gold and silver bugs convinced themselves, like many of the Bitcoin and crypto bugs today, that gold and silver only had one direction to go, which is up. And it took 40 years to disprove that to them, but there's still a lot of people hanging on to it. Bitcoin moves so quickly that almost no one bought into that proposition running up to 2017. And now people are saying, yeah, but it didn't go all the way back down to 0 or even 1,000. Yeah, but it did go back down to 3,000. And hopefully 80% of all the participants now understand that every market, including crypto and Bitcoin, is responsive to everything else that's going on economically around the world. And therefore they trend at various times. And that's why all this technical stuff that you and I talk about is so important, about being able to identify what the trend is doing. I have come to the conclusion, I think that as you have, that Bitcoin and Bitcoin alone is now in a long-term bull market, which could end a week from now, a month from now, or 10 years from now. It will end at some point unless it goes into an S curve and gets total adoption. And there are very few things, very few assets in the world that can do that. Gold is one of them. It could be that Libra turns out to be another one of them, but I doubt it. It could be that the SDRs issued by the IMF is the fourth possible solution to all of these problems. But whichever one turns out, or multiple ones turn out, let's just assume that Libra decides that it's not just going to have 5 currencies. It's going to have Bitcoin in there. It's going to have gold in there. All of a sudden, you're going to have mass adoption of that particular thing. I'm not predicting that. I'm just saying that all of these things are linked together, trying to solve this overall problem. So
Yeah, Tyler, and let's clear up something else, right? Because people still have this problem with our pessimistic targets from last year. Guys, hyperwave to 1000 is still in play. It's going to be in play unless we can sustain a price greater than $20,000. Is that did I just sum that up properly?
That's absolutely correct. Hyperwave has been correct for Bitcoin throughout its entire phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The only thing that has happened is instead of getting to 1,000, we bottomed out at 3,100 so far. And I am now saying that I believe that 20,000 will be exceeded in this move at some point before a pullback. But that might not happen. We might run up to 15,000, 17,000, 19,000, and come all the way back down. And Hyperwave is still active with its phase 7 until one of those two events occur, either above 19,666 on Bitstamp or hit $1,000. Everything in between is just noise from Hyperwave's point of view, not from all the other things like TD or sequential or all the other technical systems that we're now using to get in at 6,000. Yeah, we missed the bottom by 3,000, but since 6,000, we've added $7,000 on top of that 6,000. If we go to 20 or 30, my target is 35,000. If we get above 20,000, other people have higher ones, that's fine. But what my point is don't get lost in the details of one particular technical system, particularly with people such as Tone and myself that use at various times 10 or 15 other ones to make decisions. That does not discredit in any way Hyperwave, regardless of what the trolls are trying to say.
People are asking me what's my target. Guys, I don't have a target because above the 62% Fibonacci line, there is no area of price resistance until you get back to the prior all-time high. And whenever I get to the prior all-time high, since I don't believe in double tops, I expect it to be broken. Maybe not on the first shot, maybe not on the second shot, but on the third shot. So I don't have a price target. I have a time target. And my time target is the third 9 in a row. If we continue to rise 4 weeks from now, I will be looking for a top. Whether that top is at 16,000 or 116,000, I don't know. But I will be looking for a time top, not a price top.
Yeah, great point. The other thing is that in our business, every day, all the evidence changes. It doesn't change by much. Every week, the evidence changes, and it changes a little more. By a month goes by, and all the evidence is different than it was when the last prediction was made. That doesn't mean that every day, every week, every month, we're not constantly changing what we're doing within portfolios or what we're doing within our own mindset in terms of making recommendations. So going back to a point in time, after all this other new evidence has come about, is silly, because all of our descriptions of what's going on in the real world has also changed. And I'm going to have to jump off right now. I've got a call coming in from Scotland I've got to take. Thank you very much, Tone, and we'll be talking.
Thank you, Tyler.
See you next
time. All right. Hey, guys, I'm going to pretty much wrap this up. And hey, great that Tyler came on. We'll do one more screen share. We'll take a look at Bitcoin one more time. We're pulling back a little bit now. Again, not surprising because I did mention to be very careful with this 12-hour 9 coming in. Now, all the other time frames are bullish. Now, the 4-hour time frame will probably be in jeopardy because of the 12-hour time frame because it trumps the 4-hour one, but we will see. Maybe this will only be a 1 candle correction, and we'll be back